So in addition to my everyday work here in the University Writing Center, one of the things I'm blessed to be able to do is to teach a class, typically one class every semester. And in the fall, I've had the opportunity over the last several years to teach a first year seminar. My topic specifically being identity through American cinema. In my course, students examine films ranging in date from 1972 to 2019, at least that was the date range for this year, and they have the opportunity to really engage with, the idea of identity, what identity truly means to us as people, and how we can pick apart and consider identity and how it's represented in the different films that we study in class. So aside from looking at identity and kind of the different nuances in each film, one of the things that I also get to do, that we also get to unpack, is some of the larger topics that exist within our society that we often don't like to think about, such as race, gender roles, sexuality. One of the texts that we deal with talks specifically about the commodification of the black body, which is really important for them to consider. We even have conversations about slavery within the context of that film. Again, it makes for a really interesting conversation. But one of the things that I often encounter when we talk about these topics is that students often don't know how to engage with such topics, either because they are nervous and they're afraid they're going to say something that isn't quite right, or they have never really had to do so before, and of course they're nervous to put forth some of their ideas. One of the things I like to do with my first year seminar is let them know that the space in our class is a space where things can get a little messy. You can screw up, you can make some mistakes, and that's okay. I tell my students every fall, if you're going to make a mistake with me, where there are consequences, but the stakes are a little bit lower. And one of the things that I love is that as we've examined some of these larger topics, like when we examined race, when we examined gender roles, when we looked at the commodification of the black body, when we considered some of these ideas and why they're important and why we should examine them through visual texts, it took a little bit of time, but they were able to latch onto it. And it was really wonderful to see. Well, cut to the very last film we tackled for this class, the film Booksmart by Olivia Wilde. The film is very much a pro-feminine, it's a feminist text. And one of the things I asked them is I said, okay, well, let's say we consider this to be a feminist text. Why? Why is it? What evidence, what things can we pull from the film? And of course, they gave me a host of different answers. And I asked them, I said, okay, well, why is it important that we have a film that does this? Why is it important that we have this kind of film with these, with a younger audience, again, late high school going into college? Why is it important that this film be created? And why was it, put out in 2019? And I had one of my students say, well, it makes these topics less taboo. People don't always like to talk about things that involve women, specifically the idea of sexuality, or the grappling with who they are and how they navigate sexual spaces, how they assert themselves and become more become dominant and become more self-assured. People don't always like to talk about that when it comes to women, but they want to talk about it and examine it when it comes to men. And I had this moment where it was amazing. It was truly wonderful. For all the things that have happened this fall semester, as challenging as circumstances have been, it has been really inspiring to see my students come to terms with some of these topics and digest visual media and think about why it's important, but also larger than that, think about why some of the larger topics such as race, gender, sexuality, thinking about some of these things and why they're important within the context of these films, but also why they're important now and why it's important to study them. It's been truly fantastic. I can't wait to see what this group does. Ideally, we will not be in these circumstances for too much longer, I hope, fingers crossed, but I will say that I'm inspired by what the work they've done. They're rock stars, and I really look forward to seeing what this freshman group is going to do as they move forward in their journey here at UWG.